Hello guys, I'm Ondrej from Tris Music Production in Exeter. You're in my virtual studio, effectively, where I produce most of my work. I'm currently working on a project called Requiem for the Lost, which is a long project of mine, which I've been working on effectively for the last 6 months. It will premiere on the 2nd of July in Exeter Castle's courtyard at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but the event starts at 11, so you can come throughout the whole day really and enjoy classical music. And we will be conducting this piece effectively live with the use of Wii remote controls on the day, making sure that we control the tempo and the dynamics as it's played live on stage. The Requiem for the Lost as an idea came about when, sadly, 2 years ago I've lost my mum, and I wanted to write her Requiem in her memory and in her honor, because she was the person who, with my father, suffered and put money aside every month to allow me to have my music education on her side. So I've decided to write the Requiem, but the first problem I came across with is commissioning an orchestra which is A, large enough, B, has a choir, brass section, string section, woodwinds, and basically the full Monty in that respect to write a Requiem. And it effectively proved almost impossible to get access to an orchestra of that size on a professional level, which will be able to perform my piece. So we looked into the realm of virtual instruments, which I've been using before for producing music for other media. So very quickly we realized that, you know, the sound is sufficient to provide us with the quality we're looking for, but the problem we had then was how to conduct it live. And because of a company called Oscillator and a software they've developed, we were able to create a setup where effectively we can conduct it live, and each selected section at their own each time can be, their dynamics can be controlled, while we control tempo throughout the whole piece, which gives you the flexibility but also the human touch, which is really required when you do any piece of music. So even though it will be virtual, we are emulating a real feel, and we're hoping to achieve the real emotions which a real piece of music played by an orchestra would achieve. For the setup, when we've decided what we wanted to do, we need to come up with the right selection of instruments. Sadly, there isn't a library which would supply all the instruments we were looking for, so we had to create a mix which would blend quite well together and which will also sound as human as possible. And we went through loads of products in our time, testing them and speaking to, you know, different companies, trying to arrange things, and in the end, we've actually settled down on a selection which is very different to the one which was 3 months ago or even 6 months ago. And we've decided to go for VSL, Vienna Symphonic Library, for the brass and woodwind section. Because to be honest, the VSL woodwinds are, in my opinion, still unmatched anywhere else. In the end, we've decided to go for VOXOS, which is got a box down here, which was kindly given to us by Time+Space, very kindly, and that's used for the virtual choir. I've actually originally piloted this product in their shop in Oakhampton, and I walked out slightly baffled. I loved the flexibility and the freedom of the product, but I didn't feel that it sounded epic. I was sort of questioning their name, Epic Virtual Choir, at that time. Now, by the time I came home, I decided to settle it in my head a bit, and decided to sort of test that software with all the plugins. And that's where we've decided to go for the get to it, when we've decided to go for Vienna Suite, effectively, again, kindly supplied by a Time+Space to us, which we use for effectively all the mastering. I must say it's been a lifesaver, really, in arranging this piece, because it is very, very easy to space the instruments with this and make sure that they each have their own sort of space in the virtual hall which we're developing for it. Now, in terms of hosting it, we found that no one computer will be able to host the setup. And as you can see in the background, we're actually using Vienna Ensemble Pro loaded on 2 computers. And effectively that allows us to spread the weight. So the Mac is hosting some of the string sections, most of the brass and most of the woodwinds, but the choirs are then hosted separately on our slave PC. Now, the best thing about the Vienna Ensemble Pro effectively is that you can set it up cross-platform, and we're using the latest version of Mac OS X and the latest version of Windows 7 64-bit, and it has proven to be an absolute lifesaver and being extremely stable. Now, obviously, in terms of the music itself, the Cinesamples VOXOS took us some time to get the sound just right. It's got huge potential. You can go from very, very quiet and very emotional to this really big, epic, rumbling sound. And the Requiem uses both of these features very heavily. We also use the mid-range quite often. The singing capability is brilliant because you get almost sort of emulated legato if you wish. So you can do the Bach runs if you want to, or you know, Bach progressive harmonies. All that is possible there. Also, in terms of the word builder, the number of syllables you get there allow you to play around with it quite a lot and create quite a lot of different sort of different sounding sections. I would strongly recommend to anybody who is thinking about VOXOS or about any choir is definitely give VOXOS a consideration, because we've tested few choirs, well, all the choirs which are on the market actually, and settled down with this one. So on those grounds, I would say it's definitely an outstanding product. And the brilliance of the product as well is the control in terms of word building. There is actually no other choir when you can do all the functions in terms of word building and harmonies and progression of harmonies with legatos and sort of quick slurs and runs, which you can do here. Of course, you get the standard effects and things like that with it, shouts, whispers, grunts, screams, all that if you want to. We haven't actually used that many of them in this, but I guess if you were making a cinematic trailer or something like that, it would become very, very useful. So a brilliant library, and again Vienna used for hosting. So that's the way we've sort of arranged the setup, using the sort of what we would call the best selection of the instruments on the market at the best price. Well, on the day, what we're planning to do is we'll bring this setup over in terms of the iMac. We're going to have an Apogee Duet sound card, the new one, and our slave PC, which we're going to just zoom over to. This is our slave over there, which has a Mac logo on for some unknown reason, but it is a PC. And that one is running AMD Phenom X4, top of the range, with incredible amount and unhealthy amount of RAM. And then we're running this iMac, which is an i7 core, top of the range iMac, effectively only 2 months old, with 12 gig RAM on there, running, you know, the rest. The slave PC is running scoring strings and is running VOXOS, and it's running only about 50% of the strings. And the remaining 50% is then loaded on this computer with brass section, woodwind section, and all the other sections effectively loaded here. Now on the day, effectively we'll be using a program, as I said earlier, called Oscillator, which will help us to conduct it. It transfers the data given to the computer, a Mac in this case, through the MIDI controllers, through the Wii. Effectively it transfers it, translates it into MIDI, and allows us to, in Logic, then use it as a conducting tool. Now obviously you can see up here we've got the selected list of instruments which are conducted at any given time. Now those are the ones which are sort of the most important, because those are the ones we will selectively control their dynamics, and we can increase them or decrease them. And obviously you can hear a slight part of the argument. So now the sort of epic thing. Now for all those looking for epic sound, it will come very soon. It was the end of the argument, and you will be able to hear how epic this choir can sound. Now obviously here you can see the amount of data which needs to be written. Now for this Requiem, normally obviously if you're using virtual instruments you will very often layer them quite heavily to make sure you get the sound you're looking for, so you achieve the realism. Now for obvious reasons it's going to be performed live, we can't do that. Every single instrument is going to be playing literally live. In terms of they are written just once, like a real orchestra would get their manuscript. The same way is the virtual orchestra setup. The reason you see so many channels is because each string's articulation is loaded individually. Each brass's articulations are loaded individually. They are loaded under typical key switching under VSL, which any VSL user would be used to. But the scoring strings had to be loaded individually, so that makes it appear so big. It's actually slightly smaller in that respect.